This episode of the Dead Man Walking podcast is brought to you by Cast Magic. Cast Magic is the premier AI tool for repurposing your audio and video content, generating dozens of potential new engagement opportunities between you and your audience. Cast Magic saves me 4 to 5 hours of post-podcast production time every week. Check out what Cast Magic can do for you by clicking the link at the top of the description box. Now, onto the podcast. Welcome to the Dead Man Walking podcast. I am your host, repeatedly.dead.fred, author of the medical trauma memoir, The Summer I Died 20 Times, which is actually what happened to me, and that's how I got the name, repeatedly.dead.fred. Today, I am here with the amazing Romi Mayes. Hi, Romi.
Hey, Fred. And one day I'd like to hear all about that because I've
Okay.
never, I think I should have died a couple times, but I don't think I did die anytime that I'm aware of. So
Well, as a rock and roll legend, it's pretty common for you guys to die a few times.
yeah, and actually, ironically, most of the times that I think I got close to death had nothing to do with music.
Okay. So
Just
for
being
those of you,
a crazy teen.
yeah, for those of you who don't know Romi, she's a Winnipeg-born singer-songwriter. Um, you've had you've been, I think, nominated for Junos and Songwriter of the Year and Record of the Year and all sorts of things. So very talented lady.
Why, thank you.
Um, and I actually watched your video Lucky Tonight just before we came on. That was like such a plot twist at the end.
I know. That's the thing is I actually don't have a lot of music videos out, and usually it's because I want to have a really good story with it. And I've
Mhm.
only made 2 videos that are like official music videos besides just some, footage. And it's one of them is that one, and the other one is on my Devil on Both Shoulders album, the title track. And both of
Mhm.
them I wanted to plot out this like a story, a twist, kind of like a
Mhm.
mini movie, So that's why I'm kind of hesitant to just make one of those crying out of the window rain pouring on the other side videos because that they don't
Mhm.
appeal to me.
Okay. So you're now the third most famous musician I've met from Winnipeg. So
Well, easy on the third, but okay, who?
Burton Cummings,
Yes.
Laurie McKenzie from Laurie McKenzie
Okay.
and the Bandits and the Guess Who, and now you.
Okay. Well, I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take a step behind Burton. Fine. There are many, many musicians actually that have come out of Winnipeg that did quite well for themselves, especially people like the Crash Test Dummies and people like that. But I still think there are so many talented people here. It's hard to even imagine putting myself at the high top of that roster either. So
Yeah, these are just the people I've actually met.
I
Like,
know. I was just being humble.
yeah. Okay. So you grew up in East Kildonan,
I did.
and being a nice Jewish girl, that's not usually the place nice Jewish girls grow up.
Well, maybe that's why I ended up being a bad Jewish girl. I don't know, but there were no Jews in East Kildonan. I'm pretty sure if I ever met one, I don't remember, but I think I
Mhm.
did meet someone along the way that said they were from Elmwood, which is really close by where I
Mhm.
was growing up, and they were Jewish. But yeah, we it was all just Christmas lights
Mhm.
and nothing to do with Judaism. That's for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so do you think that had a huge impact on the way you write and the music you play?
I don't think so. I think that there were about 20 million other things in my life that sort of impacted my songwriting and my imagination and my creative ideas. But I don't really know. The isolation in East Kildonan didn't really affect me too badly or too poorly because we went to Jewish parochial school anyway,
Okay.
and so we went to the Talmud Torah school in the North End and then Joseph Alinsky Collegiate in the North End. And so we just commuted to that school. There was no school bus for us though,
Mhm.
because there were no other students in that area. So my mother had to drive us to school or we bused
Mhm.
home from school. But yeah, no, that didn't seem to have any kind of negative or a very positive impact on me. It was sort of indifferent on that.
Okay, so you got your daily dose of Jew at school.
Yeah.
So there's 20 million other factors. So let's do a countdown starting at 20 million.
Starting at 20 million down to one.
Yeah.
20 million. I don't know. I mean, just like life, I'm in my 40s now and I started traveling and experiencing like life a little earlier than most maybe would. And so yeah, I think those experiences, a lot of heartache, a lot of triumph, a lot of roller coaster, family death, family success, you know, or whatever it was. And um, I think that those early years sort of formed my need to be creative more so because I was always writing. When I was
Mhm.
younger, I was always writing writing stories. Do you remember being from Winnipeg? Do you remember Sheldon Oberman?
Um, I'll say
I'll
no,
take that as a
but go
no.
on. Yeah.
Sheldon Oberman was a very esteemed writer, actually, an author, and he was my teacher. He was my creative writing and journalism teacher, and I also was the editor of the newspaper, and he was my guidance for that. And I was always into writing poetry, short stories, and then it was about when I was 15 that I started playing guitar, and so I was able to bring those two together.
Okay. So, is there a family history of being artsy or creative?
My mom will proudly say she's tone deaf, so no. But but my father, who I'm not very close with at all, is an understatement, tends to I've only spoken to him a handful of times really in the last decade or two, but he seems to try to take a little responsibility for that talent, but that's up for
Mhm.
grabs. We'll have to
Yeah.
we'll have to see what he does karaoke or something like that. So we'll see. I've never heard him do it, but not to be an asshole, but you know, I don't really think that he can take any of that cred. So
Yeah.
no, there's no artsy family history that I know of. So I don't I actually when I was younger, I don't think I could sing very well at all.
Mhm.
I would record into my ghetto blaster when we had those, you know, you could press one-sided tape and sometimes even with the other
Yeah.
side when the radio was going, you know, you can record from one tape to another or whatever. And I would record myself singing like TV show theme songs like
Mhm.
Family Ties and Growing Pains and things like that, and they were horrible. So so I think it's just the less that I really wanted to sing, so I just kept trying
Mhm.
until I had the confidence, and then it came there.
So, as a professional musician now, you brought up karaoke. You ever like sneak into a karaoke and just wow the audience?
Actually, I don't even sneak into karaoke. I go to karaoke once in a very blue moon. It's usually with friends and drinks and things like that. And when I do, I actually wow them in a negative way because I usually choose a song that's impossible to sing and I've had too many drinks to try it. Because I feel like it's really boring to just be like, na, 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 you know, like singing a good
Mhm.
karaoke song at a karaoke. It's like you sort of have to push yourself and kind of try your hardest to kind of screw up almost. So the song Take On Me by Aha,
Oh, yeah.
the hardest song to sing in the world, in my opinion, because I have no range. Like my range is
Mhm.
here. So by the time you get to those top notes, it's just me screaming and it's kind of more just for entertainment. So karaoke and I aren't really pals, but it'd be fun to do if I'm just being goofy.
Mhm. Okay. So, you're involved in a number of projects that we're gonna talk about. First one is curbside concerts,
Right.
which is, how you're listed on the Zoom here. Um, Now, are you a founder of it, or I wasn't quite clear from Miles
Yeah.
Shane, who introduced
Yeah.
us.
Well, so Matt Bergner and his wife Amanda Bergner from Calgary, they're the
Mhm.
co-founders. But it's them and myself. When they started it in March 2020 in Calgary, and by June 2020, it's all pandemic related, which I can explain if you'd like. But by
Mhm.
June 2020, I started it. They asked me to start it here in Manitoba. And since then, I've been a complete, the only senior event producer, and we've just done this together. So I
Mhm.
feel like it's my company as well. And I think they feel the same way. But as far as the founders go, it's them.
Well, I think it's a brilliant concept, so why don't you tell it's
Yeah.
obviously COVID pandemic related, so.
Yeah, it was actually really brilliant. I'm actually impressed that nobody else really thought of it too much. I mean, I think some people did along around the globe, but we made our name for ourselves in Canada because of it. But what really happened was that Matt is a musician as well, Matt Bergner, the founder, and his wife is a musician as well. And he was finding that, there was no way to entertain anybody, obviously, in COVID and everything shut down. And people who love music couldn't get music, and
Mhm.
people who wanted to play music had nowhere to play it. So he actually fixated this sort of I should say, this stage on the back of a truck. and a battery powered speaker. And he was just for, at first just for fun, just going around the neighborhood and performing for people so they could be in their front yards or open their front doors and hear
Mhm.
some live music. And then it started becoming a requested thing where people were asking, could you come and play this for us? And then he got too busy doing it alone. So he started adding some musicians in Calgary. And before
Mhm.
you knew it, Curbside Concerts was a potentially thriving company between March and June. And he thought we have to expand this to Winnipeg as well because he knew the scene here and he'd been here quite a bit. And he
Mhm.
chose the right person. I mean, he asked me to forefront here in Manitoba, and it was my pleasure. And I'm business minded as well as just a musician because of all the work I've done in the business industry of music as well.
Mhm.
But so it just worked itself out really well. And then we expanded. I helped expand the company from BC to PEI. So we're actually, and then post pandemic, not post, I guess people still say we're in the pandemic, but post the crisis times of the pandemic when no one could go out, once people could start going to bars and things like that again, we'd already established ourselves as a company that could, a live music delivery company. If you wanted a
Mhm.
party at your house, you could hire a band in your backyard, or you could, or hire a serenade on Valentine's Day for you and your partner on your front steps. Or then it became, because we were indoor friendly, so we just do weddings, corporate events. We have a
Mhm.
lot of work in shopping malls across Canada, and it's become a really thriving company. Actually, we're really excited about it.
That's very cool.
Very
So,
cool. Yeah, pretty happy to be part of something so exciting. We
yeah.
paid out over $1 million to musicians at this point, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, which is something we're super proud of. So.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's
Mhm.
it's pretty hard being an indie musician.
Yeah, it's hard to be an indie, and especially at that time, those people that we were asking to be on our roster or the ones that were pitching themselves to be, and we proved to be on our roster, we're extremely thankful for the income, the supplemental income, because there
Mhm.
were really no ways for them to get it for music at that point. And a lot of people were getting discouraged completely to play music, live music at all, of course. So, and then of course now it's still even supplemental to, so I mean it's gig's a gig, right?
Mhm. So, are there any musicians that you guys found, like just, you sort of gave them their start through this?
I don't know. I think though there were a few musicians that didn't really have many gigs to start, and I just really thought they had quality, and so we put them on
Mhm.
the roster anyway. And so they kind of had it's. I don't know if it skyrocketed their careers or anything like that,
Mhm.
but I think that it did sort of put them on the map a little bit more in the communities that they're in.
So, who gave you your first break or your first gigs?
Bobby Starr, an iconic Winnipeg legend, actually.
Mhm.
I was hanging out at the Blue Note Cafe on Main Street. I was 15 years
Oh,
old.
love that
And
place.
oh man, what a place. If there could only be another. I mean, Times Change High and Lonesome Club is pretty close. And
Mhm.
but there's something about the nostalgia of that time and place when, it
Mhm.
has a little something to it. But yeah, I was 15 years old and I'd been playing guitar and singing, but I hadn't really been playing in public very much,
Mhm.
actually near at all, except for like maybe a school talent show or something like that,
Mhm.
which was just glorious. And and then we I was there and he said, we're gonna get Romi at that time. Of course, my last name was Rikus. We're gonna get Romi Rikus up to play a couple songs. And I was just like, no way, no chance. Don't even like people are looking at me. I'm like, no, I don't play. No, I don't play. And I had written a few songs at that time. Eventually I got up on stage and I played those few songs. And the place could kind of be a rough area and a rough crowd in the evenings. I wasn't scared of it, but some hookers and some blow addicts and all kinds of stuff was like by the late hours. And
Mhm.
I was just this 15-year-old kid, and I got on stage and I had these people in tears, like this heavy duty big biker dude. It's coming up to me with a tissue after, and stuff. So after those three songs, that was pretty much it for me. I went home and I said, I'm going to be a musician. That was the most incredible feeling I ever had. So that was a huge turning point into me looking into a, somewhat of a semi-professional to professional career in music.
Mhm. Speaking of bikers seeing music, did you ever play at the zoo, the
Oh
Osborne
yeah,
Village?
of course. Yeah. Yeah. And they even had a basement Aussies that sometimes they'd have
Yeah.
shows at, but the zoo upstairs, I mean, my band wasn't really as hard as everyone else's bands that would play there, but
Mhm.
sometimes they would have some more like, rootsy art, bluesy sort of festival weekend or a interesting, theme tonight. And we get to play there. But yeah, that was a rough room sometimes. I had a beer
Yeah.
bottle thrown at me actually in the parking lot. It's really fun.
Oh, well. Not shockingly, I don't remember a lot of the bands that I saw there, but I do remember being dragged to a couple of the biker parties afterwards,
Oh, those would
which
have
was
been
an
probably
experience.
even a little more sketch. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
and
you take the lowest of the low at the zoo and then you put them all into a party.
yeah,
There's no curve yet left of like some people that were decent. Just the dirtiest of them all. Put them in a
I'm
party. Scary.
pretty sure I saw Biff naked there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, so did I.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Saw Helix there. I think I even saw, did I see Green Day there or was that the Albert? I don't know. Bunch of old bands anyway.
yeah, a lot of great music, as you said, comes through Winnipeg.
It's insane. Yeah. And you know what? Every time I think like maybe we're on this low curve of, well, the good old days, there's another round of great old days or great new days of musicians that I get to see in here. And it's pretty thriving still.
Mhm. So you got your big break at the Blue Note, and then when did it really escalate into you?
Yeah. Shortly thereafter, um, I started with hanging out with some people, one originally from a band called the Blues Puppies at the Blue Note, but a bunch of people who we all started playing a little bit more like, bluegrassy and country and roots music. And I left town, I started the band called Off the Wagon. And
Mhm.
then I left town. And then when I came back, they were like a pretty solid, gigging a lot country, more bluegrass band. And so that's kind of when things started becoming a little more serious. When I moved back to Winnipeg, that time, I left again after that, but at that time, I guess it was 1996, 1997,
Mhm.
I moved back to Winnipeg and we recorded an album. So that was pretty much my first recording on an album. My first time I
Mhm.
recorded and was in a band that was going to do something and play festivals and things like that. So that kicked that up a notch. Then I left again because I was always so restless.
Mhm.
And I went out to the West Coast at that time and settled down a bit. And that's when I got married and had my daughter. Now at this point, I'm about 23. And when I moved back to Winnipeg, it was 2002. And I dove full deep into a solo career. So that was really when 2002 was when I said, okay, I'm going to play music. I don't want to hold back anymore. And I had all the great support of the Winnipeg music scene that I've been raised in. So there were a lot of players that I got to play with and a lot of push me, further. So 2002 back in Winnipeg when I moved back. Since then, I've been back since.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you moved back as a single mom?
I did. I got a divorce. I did. One of my pride points. Yeah, 23 years old. I separated, moved here with my daughter. Her father, who's a great man, I'm not putting him down at all, but he stayed in BC. We shared her a lot through summers and Christmas breaks and stuff like that. But she was here with me alone as a single mom. And then by the time I was 27, the divorce was final. So yes, I was a divorcee, 27-year-old single mother at 27 in Winnipeg, Manitoba, with the most beautiful daughter. But yeah, and I just really, really still wanted my music career really badly. So
Mhm.
I just kept
Well, it's
trucking
hard
forward.
enough being an indie performer and then being a single mom on top of that. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I have to thank my mom a lot for help, because if it was a tour I was doing that wasn't during spring break, Christmas
mhm.
break, or summer where she would visit with her dad in BC, my mom would help by watching my daughter Ashley while I was away, if it was a 2-week tour or a 3-week tour or something like that. And so my mom helped a lot. That would have been really difficult without her. I don't think it would have been possible without her. And I
Mhm.
mean, the thing is that I'm pretty determined, and I think that that's the difference. I don't even know that I'm the most talented person that was touring at the time or the most deserving, but I was working hard to do it. I was
Mhm.
working really hard at the business side. My left right brain was kind of working both at the same time. So I was
Mhm.
lucky enough to be able to sell something that I thought was good music to people who would want to book it. But I
Mhm.
also had to be the manager and independent label as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things I found very eye-opening about having written my own book. And even though I had a publisher and I've, got this little podcast going, how much work there is outside of the writing and doing the actual, like to just market yourself. It's like a
Yeah.
never-ending endeavor.
It's so true. I mean, I'm finding that right now very much, and I'm starting to get frustrated that I'm not working as much on the music part of my album as I am
Mhm.
on the business end because I'm having to do both simultaneously. this will be my first album coming up that I'm going to release in 9 years. And so things have changed too. So a lot in 9 years with the industry. So, the marketing, and the business end, and just making sure all the ducks are in a row, from even just renting the studio and putting the money down on that, let alone getting a publicist or getting the photos done and making sure the designer has that at the right time, and planning the touring, and trying to get the festivals going. And it's just a full-time job. You're your own everything. And I've had moments where I thought, damn it, I'm not even thinking about the songs. Take a moment, no business today, just play guitar. So luckily I think I'm on pace, to like where I want to be at this point, because we go in the studio in 3.5 weeks. Songs are ready, musicians are getting ready, and everything seems to be on path with the business end.
So as somebody who enjoyed a lot of classic rock, you'd hear all these stories of like, the Beatles or whoever would go into the studio and like 3 days later they had an entire album.
The Stones. I just realized I was writing the Stones. Yeah.
And like, is that what happens now? Like,
not for me. I mean, I know a lot of musicians who can write like this. I've toured with musicians who write in the car and then they're playing that song that night on stage. For me, like, it's been 9 years. So, to get 12 songs I really like, or the motivation or just whatever as well to make a new album. But these songs are like, they are written. And there's going to be a process, I have all that sort of mapped out. You go in for the first 2 days, you do the bed track. So the bass and the drums, they're ready to go, and you do like a mock track with them, and then you start working on the guitars and the sounds and things like that. And then the last level is the vocals. And then you hope by the end of the week, you have enough time to get all the harmonies and any final touches in. And then it just then it starts mixing and mastering from there. So I have the week sort of planned out as there's a process. And there are times in the studio where I've been sitting and listening to the music and singing it in my head, in the sound room, not recording. And I've changed lyrics, things like that. But once you start recording those songs, for me, they're done. Like, you're not changing them, because you have to get the drummer and the bass player back in if you want to change the arrangement or something. So that's what all this pre-production is for, getting together with my co-producer and some of my musicians. And we've just been working so hard to fine tune how the song's going to go, so that when you get in the studio, it's set.
So this is a question I've always hoped to ask, like Paul McCartney or Jimmy Page. So, because
I guess, not to interrupt you, sorry, but I guess in their situation too, they had label money, where they're just like, the studio is where they write, so they just put them in a studio and say, start putting your stuff together and throwing ideas together. I don't have that kind of money. Studios cost per day, so I don't really, I want to have everything as ready as possible before I go in, because I don't have the time to just have someone, no labels paying for me to be there for like a week or 3 days, bringing me food and, or whatever. It's pretty, and I have to pay all the musicians too, like I'm for their time. So I don't have the time. It's not like the Beatles, where they're just paying the Beatles and the Beatles are being paid for, it's all on me. So the longer I keep anybody there, the more I get them to do more work, the more I have to pay them. And I can only afford to do so much. So this is why, we're as prepared as possible going into the studio. There won't be much writing done there except for fine-tuning lyrics, maybe.
So when you write a song, and I don't know if this is the question I really wanted, do you also hear like the instruments at the same time? Like, what the bass should be doing roughly, and what the guitar should be and the drums should be?
Sometimes, I mean, it's sometimes I'm just I do usually write the melody and the guitar parts, like, or at least the chording. Eventually there might be a riff or something that I didn't start with, but I usually write that together. And then, but it could just be that I hear already da ga ga da ga da ga da. I'm like, oh, now, but that sometimes happens. But mostly I just start with the skeleton, and then I start building from there. And it really helps to have great musicians around me who put their 2 bits in when they start jamming it with me, and then we start creating an idea from there too.
Cool. So you're paying for this for yourself. I'm
not
even
really.
Yes.
I'm actually asking the world to help me.
Yeah, you have to come up with the funding, and I have no 100%. Idea how much a project like this would cost. So I understand you started like a GoFundMe.
I did. Yeah. The thing is that so I did a GoFundMe for my Devil on Both Shoulders album in 2015, and I hated every second of it. I hated
Mhm,
every second of it. I hated asking anybody for more than they already were supporting me just by even caring about my music at all.
mhm,
I should just be so lucky to have a fan, you know. So really it felt horrible to ask anybody anything. But this time, why I also took so long to record another album was because A, I couldn't afford it because it could
mhm,
cost upwards into 30,000, $40,000 if you're
mhm,
if you're doing it correctly, in my opinion,
mhm,
correctly. If you have a studio at home and you're good at that, or you can play all the instruments, sure, maybe it's cheaper for you, but I don't. So
mhm.
um and then yes, where was I? Sorry, I got just lost. Yeah, yeah, and then the money, it was it's just that the industry's changed so much, so there's no way to recoup your money from the
Mhm.
recording costs via sales.
Okay.
It's all digitized now. So that was a really big thing for me where I realized I can't even afford to make an album with an investor
Mhm,
because I won't be able to pay them back, you know? So it ended up being that when I decided to do a GoFundMe, it is very humbling and I'm not enjoying it very much, but
mhm,
it's just sort of I'm hoping people care enough, But this time, instead of asking them to help me make this album and then buy my album, I'm saying you're not going to buy the album. You have your 9.99 Spotify a month and you'll get it for free. So will you help me make the album?
mhm,
Like, will you support the making of the album instead of buying the album? Sort of a trade. I'm okay with someone giving $5 to a CD that I had and throwing it on off stage to them for $5. So do that with $5 for the making of the album, or else the album can't be made.
mhm,
That kind of thing. And I know it's stupid, and it's just like it's not stupid. It's really hard to do, and it feels silly. There's so much going on in the world, and it's just such a horrible. Like we're World War III. There's hunger and
mhm,
homelessness. There's all this stuff going on, and then you have this white young female brat, from Winnipeg, Manitoba, who has a house. I rent it, but it's still like I have like a car and a house, and I have food, and I'm
mhm,
saying, hey, can everybody give me 30 grand? So I can follow my dreams. But it's more just like I've made enough fans. I hope that they want to hear it.
mhm.
So they want me to make a new album. So that's where I'm just going with the hope of that and trying to be humble about it.
Well, if people stop dreaming, there's no point in having the world, right?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I even asked, sort of as a loose question at one point, when I was thinking about it, I said, if I did a fundraiser, started posting that on social media and polling that, and everyone was like, go for it. We need the music now more than ever. And that kind of inspired me to realize that it's not selfish to make music right now. It's actually
Mhm.
needed. So
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who said this, but it was a comment along the lines of, with all the animosity in the world and the divisions, um, it's going to be the songwriters and the comedians that that lead us out of this funk.
yeah, and really, they say, the whole laughter is the best medicine or whatever. I went to Rumors Comedy Club. It's a little comedy club here on Saturday night, last Saturday.
Mhm,
I had a really tough day actually, and I thought, you know what, this is the perfect day to go. And I laughed my ass off.
mhm,
And it was so needed. And I realized again, like, yeah, laughter, music, camaraderie, you can't pretend things aren't going on, but it doesn't
mhm,
mean you have to stop trying to make things positive to balance it,
mhm.
you know?
Who did you see at Rumors?
I actually don't remember his name. Right when I said, I'm like, please don't ask me his name. He's a balding white guy. I think it's you. No, he was great. He talked a lot about things that I thought were really funny. But
Mhm,
we could always put this in later, put a little note under, and I could find out
yeah.
from Rivers Comedy Club, and we could put it under Romi saw Mark
Mhm,
Sademan or something like that.
mhm. I had interviewed Mark Breslin of Yuck Yucks a few months ago, and he said they were going to be opening up a comedy club in Winnipeg.
They did. It's in the old Fort Garry Hotel. And there's always a good reason to go to the Fort Garry Hotel. It's just this magnificent, beautiful thing. And there's, the piano lounge and all this. And I guess I haven't been yet, but Yuck
Mhm,
Yucks is another area in the hotel now where they're doing comedy shows. And I really want to go. I think I'm going to see more comedy shows. It seemed
mhm.
to really lighten my shoulder weight.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, do you want to tell us where your GoFundMe is? Like, what's the?
Sure. I
Where do
mean,
people
really, I
find
don't,
it?
I mean, there's a link. We could put a link. I don't know if you can click upon it later if you do that. But really, if you just looked up GoFundMe, which is all one word, and Romi Mayes, ROMIMAYES, it would just go straight to it. But in all my social media, on my Facebooks and on my Instagram and all the threads and all that stuff that I'm trying to figure out how to use all the
Mhm.
time,
Yeah.
there are links to it everywhere there.
Yeah. I'm probably spending an hour and a half a day learning all these things about how to use YouTube better and
No
everything.
kidding. That's what if I wanted to spend money on one thing after this album, like, instead of a publicist and, next year or something like that, it would just be someone to take care of all my social media. I'll
Right.
just take care of all because I'm so tired of trying to personally ask people to pay attention to me. And I don't know
Mhm.
how to do it to maximize it. Like you said, like monetizing YouTube or anything like that. Like that's just the stuff I'm not interested in. And I just
Mhm.
made a post today actually saying, I'm so sick of talking about the money and I just want to talk about the music. So,
Mhm.
and it's just the social media stuff. It takes up too much of our time trying to promote ourselves. And I think people can get annoyed with you and then those people should just log off your page, but it's just the only way for an independent to get their word across. So it
Mhm.
could be ridiculed, but it's a necessary evil, I think.
Mhm. So when do you think the album will be out?
June 24th, no, June 23rd,
Okay.
2024. I'm actually doing a release here in Manitoba.
Mhm.
And then I'll be doing a couple of small festivals and some touring and maybe a couple of big festivals, but I can't talk much on that just yet. I think
Okay.
next year is going to be my major touring year and award nomination hopefully and stuff here. But I'm just
Mhm.
going to subtly release that. We'll release it and release it digitally and do some short tours this year and just shake the cobwebs off a bit. And then hopefully next year, if it's going well, I can get some maybe industry accolade for it.
Mhm. That would be nice. And hopefully, I guess those also bring you some extra cash.
Usually it's kind of it goes in tow, right? So like if
Mhm.
you if you do well, even with nominations or publicity, then you'll get a great festival, and that's where the pay comes, right? Or you get like
Mhm.
something. I have a publishing I don't have a publishing company. I have a publishing company that Third Side Music that I have my music, and the most money I made in my music career in the last handful of years has been from getting placements on The Good Wife, Blacklist, and this other show, Three Women, I think it's called, and Bachelor in Paradise Canada, and when you get a placement on that, it's your your music's making you money and you're not doing anything. It's just your music's making you
Mhm.
money. And so to me, that's the only future in the music really, besides just enjoying it and making an album because you want to, which I
Mhm.
need to. I just feel like I'm a songwriter and I'm forgetting to be one. So
Mhm. So what do you do when you're not music writing and performing?
well, curbside concerts keeps me very, very busy. I
Mhm.
also have a grandson now. My
Oh,
daughter's
congrats.
23 and my grandson's 4. So I like to spend time with my family and my partner
Mhm.
and as soon as the weather gets nice and I stop hibernating, I'd like to go fishing a lot more and get out to,
Mhm.
get outside a bit more. And I like to sit by water a lot. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, mostly I really enjoy like movies and laying low and hanging out with a couple friends. I don't really like to go out much anymore. I'm getting a little bit homebodied. The bars are a little
Mhm.
much for me. So I know I'm getting old. Finally, it's happening. But yeah, I mean, I just like, a few good friends around
Mhm.
me and my family and some good movies, some good old movies or something and playing some music. Yeah, I mean, that's what's good about this album too, is it's really pushed me to have a more of a project besides just curbside. I was kind of feeling like I needed a focus point too.
Mhm. So have you passed on any of your musical genes to your daughter or your grandchild?
She's brilliant. Yeah, she
Mhm.
doesn't take it seriously, but she has a song actually on Spotify that she recorded just at home in her laptop. And it's
Mhm.
so good. She's so good. I'm mad at her for being so good. Yeah, she's a different style than me, but you can hear it. I've shown a
Mhm.
lot of my friends and a lot of my producer friends and engineer friends, and they've been pretty mind blown. I've been pretty proud to share that. But she just, she works at a law office and she doesn't want to be a musician. But I know that her partner and her they both love music, so maybe there's still some music to come out from them.
Hopefully.
I love
So
I'd love to hear an album by her. I'd just die. Yeah.
so how would you describe your musical style? Because when I when I heard Lucky Tonight and I've seen a couple of clips of you, it was almost like the Eagles. Like it was a fusion of so many different things all going on at the same time.
Yeah, I guess that's how I describe it too. I'm like, well, if you liked, say, the Stones or Joan Jett, or if you liked the band, or if you
Hmm.
like Bonnie Wright or Joni Mitchell, or if you like to cry, or if you like, or if you like Alison Krauss, even though I'm not a bluegrass singer, like, Gillian Welsh or Mary Gaucher. Lucinda Williams, I get compared to a lot. We did a whole Lucinda Williams tour last year. I covered 20 songs of hers and we toured it. That
Hmm.
I get a lot of. It's kind of just like this bluesy rock, country, folk. I guess that's why I just call it roots music,
Hmm.
because it's sort of just like, I grew up on classic rock. I'd play Maiden if I could, but
Hmm.
instead it's sort of like the bluesier rock stuff, like ZZ Top and stuff, came out of my guitar instead of that stuff and my preferences. But yeah, like, it's basically just like a summer bluesy rock and summer ballads, and that's kind of where my two styles go. But there is a little bit more pop rock. Not, I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression of that. It's just a little bit less dirty. It's still dirty, but it's
Hmm.
it's it's a little bit peppier than some of the stuff I just wrote recently. A little peppier. I wouldn't say pop, but yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a really hard thing to describe. I just usually call it roots and blues, and
Hmm.
as long as you don't mind a good ballad to cry to, then this particular album. Actually, I see we're running out of time, but this
Hmm.
particular album, I'm doing the vinyl. One side's going to be slow and one side's going to be fast.
Yeah, we might have to take a break here and come back for a sec. So can
Okay,
you
okay,
just log in again, please?
okay, sure.
Thanks. And we're back with the fabulous Romi Mayes. Sorry, I wasn't
Hello,
watching the
hello.
clock. So um, we
It's
actually
like I
just
said,
had
I'm
a,
really chatty. I'm really chatty, so sometimes I go over time. It's a very common thing.
and this is actually a redo because we did this continuation before, and either I didn't hit record properly, which is really hard thing to do, or Zoom let us down. But Romy has
Well, the hard
graciously
part about
agreed.
that is that I gave away all the secrets of the universe, and now no one will ever know.
Oh no!
Yeah, that recording's gone, and it was gold.
So how are we going to make up for that?
Make it even better.
Okay, so I think I had asked you the horrible question of what do you want to talk about next, or anything like that, and you started to talk about Miles, who introduced us a bit.
Yeah, no, actually, we talked about other things before that, because that I wouldn't
Okay.
have re-recorded. I think we had left off talking about the fundraising. Well, you know what? Maybe we should stop this one, unless you
Hmm.
want to keep this, and this is alive now. But
Hmm.
just see where we left off, what we were talking about at the end of the last one.
Okay. The last thing you, okay, I'll just put it on pause.
Okay.
Okay, attempt number two at
Actually,
bridging
technically
this.
three.
Three? Okay.
Yeah.
You must be such a boss in the studio.
That's actually technically three. Take
Mhm.
three.
Okay. So we were talking about what what your album's going to be like, and you said
Right.
lighter on the lighter side,
Well,
and
no, it's not on the lighter side, really. I'm actually doing my vinyl is going to be one side's called heavy side one
Mhm.
and then soft side two. So
Okay.
there's six slow songs and six sort of heavier songs. So
Mhm.
there's still going to be some heavy stuff, but I always usually in my past I'd put, you know, spattered through 12 songs, maybe three or four slow songs. So there is definitely a division of six and six this time, but that's just what I was writing. And I liked those songs. So I just wanted to keep the six that I really liked, that were
Mhm.
slower. But on the other side, on the heavy side, there are, it's sort of it steps up. I still have that little bit of bluesy, dirty guitar stuff going on, but
Mhm.
it steps a little bit away from that in some songs. So there's a little bit
Mhm.
a little bit of a different thing going on.
So I know I asked you about like how you would describe your music. How would you describe your guitar playing? Is there like somebody you're closely patterned to?
That's a very good question. No one's really ever asked me that. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, yeah, you nailed it. You asked a question no one's ever asked me. Um, I think I model my guitar playing after the peers that I've played with. I've been
Hmm.
really, really lucky. I don't really study guitar. Like I
Hmm.
taught beginner guitar for kids and stuff like that, but I don't really study guitar the way a guitar player would. Because I'm more of a singer-songwriter, but I have been playing guitar for a long time, so I still have a lot of, like some skills going on. But I was lucky enough to play with Jay Nowicki he's from the frontman of the Perpetrators, one of the best guitar players I know.
Mhm.
Grant Siemens, who produced my Devil on Both Shoulders album, he's one of the best guitar players I've ever met. And then Chris Saywell, who plays with me now, Chris Carmichael, who I played with for years. They're phenomenal guitar players. So when I play with them, their influence comes on to me. I think so. That's who I've mostly modeled my guitar playing after. And they're just such stellar players. You know, I try to take little leads and stuff like that, and it ends up being a little bit bluesy and stuff like that.
Mm.
But yeah, I think I model my guitar playing after my peers.
Okay. Um, let's talk about your voice a little bit.
Okay. This voice.
Yeah. I watch a YouTube channel, The Charismatic Voice, and it's I guess, semi-retired opera singer. She's in her mid-30s, and now she does reaction videos to classic rock and heavy metal bands. So, she's done like Disturbed and Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. And she talks
Like
about the
explains how they
mechanics.
sing.
Yeah. And it's just fascinating how they use their airflow and where the sounds come out and everything.
Yeah, that would be like that would be so hard for me because I'm not really a trained singer at all. So
Mhm.
I kind of just go with full passion. You know, if I did take I want to take singing lessons. I'm just stubborn to do so. But I did do one singing lesson with this woman from Argentina on a Zoom, and she taught me some tricks about how to stand better and which part of my feet to lean on when I'm standing, and how to stand brighter and take the air from everywhere and take
Mhm.
breaths, and breathe and sing into the music, into the lyric on my breath out. And if I used those things, I would be a better singer. But when I'm in the moment, I just go for it. And I don't know how
Mhm.
to not do that. I
Mhm.
know that people do it and it's probably for the best, but I've just never really been a trained singer. So I just kind of go for it. And I was telling you earlier that like I lose my voice a lot. I lose my
Mhm.
voice a lot. And I do talk a lot. And on tour, I talk a lot and I sing every night. And then by morning, I kind of have not much of a voice. And then by evening, the adrenaline and everything comes back in and I'm able to sing again. But it
Mhm.
does wear down over time. So I can only do short tours now unless I learn how to use my voice better. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a sort of it just goes in tow with sort of my whole personality and how I feel
Mhm.
about music and everything as well, because I just go for it. Like I don't really know, I didn't even know I could sing really for many years. I just went
Mhm.
for it until people said they really liked how I sang. I thought, really? I thought it was sort of just because I sang a song that I thought I was good at writing the song. I
Mhm.
knew I could play guitar, I knew I could sing. I just didn't consider myself a singer. So it's
Mhm.
been really nice to hear over the years that people really like my singing voice. So I guess I'm just going with it from there and just going for it. I know that then there's the magic of the studio. I don't allow myself to be pitch corrected or anything like
Mhm.
that. And I'm definitely not going to auto tune anything. Obviously, I'm a little too rootsy for that. That'd be funny. But I still I do I'll retake and retake until I'm not pitchy if there's a pitchy moment. But I've been pretty
Mhm.
lucky for the most part. I just whatever comes out of me is pretty dead on to what because I've written it, so I kind of know what I want, right? But
Mhm.
yeah, there are moments where I've definitely thought about, paying more attention to like what you said, the charismatic voice. Maybe I should check that out just to see how to even just my throat and my mouth and breathing. It's so important to singing to especially longevity of singing.
Mhm. I One of the things that fascinated me is I wondered, like people like Robert Plant or
Yeah.
Daltrey and stuff like that, like just amazing voices.
That
Um,
never stopped being amazing.
yeah, but I
What?
wondered, like she says that they're doing this technique and that technique and all this stuff, and I was wondering, is this just natural? Like they just know how to do this stuff, or
Right.
have they been instructed at some point? Like it's hard to imagine
Yeah.
these go for it rock stars
Yeah,
sitting
taking like
in
singing
hours
lessons.
of class.
I would think that someone like Robert Plant would have taken singing lessons along the way because of what a career they were having, and because he was probably drinking and doing drugs and the whole sex, drugs, and rock and roll thing. I'm sure, but
Mhm.
at one point he had to
Led
realize.
Zeppelin? Really?
I know, it's just my guess. I'm not really sure. But yeah, I think at one point, especially, when maybe their partying slowed down and they wanted the longevity of their career, and it was obviously a very big career. It is
Mhm.
obviously a big career. I can imagine that Robert Plant might be taking singing lessons and things like that to maintain his voice.
Mhm.
Um, I do think that there are just some people that just naturally have it too. I don't know, and that's the difference. I mean, not everybody's going to be a great singer. I think everybody can sing, but then of
Mhm.
course there's there's innate talent there that has to just be credited for as well.
Mhm. And, some of these bands that just like all these unique talents morphing together at the right time to make
I
themselves even
know.
greater.
I can't even get my head around that sometimes. I mean, I've always been Romi Mayes with a band behind me. I just call it the Romi Mayes band. The only band I was ever in as a collective was when I was younger, and I was telling you about Off the Wagon, where we all
Mhm.
worked together to make one sound. We still, as my band, are they're my dear friends, and we work together to make one song and one sound. But for the most part, over time, a lot of these members have been interchangeable. Not that they're not qualified; they're all amazing, and
Mhm.
not that they're not needed or interchangeable in a negative way. They just if a bass player can't make a show,
Yeah.
I can hire another bass player that knows my stuff or can learn it or even read charts. I can't read charts, but they can. Um, but so it is an amazing thing to me. I've always been a little envious of that. The band, like the band, actually, the
Mhm.
band, probably like the best band in the whole world. And
Mhm.
it's hard, it's unbelievable to imagine it any other way. That those 5, 6 people in any of these bands didn't how they found each other and they just made this sound is unbelievable. The
Mhm.
Stones, the Beatles, everything. It's I don't know that it's good fortune.
Mhm. The universe certainly smiled on them.
Yeah, yeah, just a huge ass grin. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, I read a few weeks ago that, and I hadn't realized this, but it makes it even more phenomenal. The Beatles were finished at the age of 29. Like they
Isn't that
did
weird to
all
think
of
about?
that before they were 29 or before they were 30, whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah, it's almost uncanny. And even just something like Robert Johnson, being part of the 27 Club or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Like picturing Janis Joplin or anyone that's in the 27, Jimi Hendrix, or you think that happened and they weren't even 30 yet?
Yeah.
Because like being in my mid 40s, mid to late 40s, again, um, it's hard. It's like I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with music in my life. And so
Mhm.
it's so, and I've recorded, I think this will be my 7th album. So I can only imagine 20 years ago having 20 albums or 30
Mhm.
albums. That's just insane. That's where you can differentiate the greats from someone like myself who's just pretty good, I think.
Mhm. I guess, yeah, you sort of have a Janis Joplin-ish kind of voice.
There's some stuff that I've been compared to that for sure. Definitely the raspy part and just that the growl and sort of. I mean, Janis Joplin didn't take singing lessons. We can guarantee that. She just went for it
Took a
too.
lot of
So
things, but not singing lessons.
I don't think she took lessons in anything. I think she just went for it in general.
Mhm. Fascinating personalities.
No
Well,
doubt. Yeah.
well, Rami, I want to thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure,
Same.
and I wish you much success. And
Thanks. I really, really, really appreciate that. I appreciate your time and that you care enough to help me promote this, what I'm doing and interested in what I'm doing. I really appreciate it. It's awesome. And thanks to Miles for setting that up.
yeah, Miles, he's okay. Um,
He's all right.
and hopefully, when I get back to Winnipeg, maybe we can connect in person.
Yeah, we should definitely go see a band or do something,
Mhm.
get a drink, or I don't know if you drink, but it's just
Sometimes
fun to get a drink. Yeah,
it
just
is.
pick up a pint. I'll go for a pint. Or maybe even check out like if I could tell you really love music, so listen to some vinyl, have a
Mhm.
visit.
That
Yeah,
would be fun.
that would be great. And Fred, I really want to read your book, so I'm gonna buy it. Everyone should do that. I
Appreciate it.
want to know how someone died 20 times and lived, because you're not Evil Knievel, so I don't understand how that's possible. But yeah, I'm quite curious about that. And I hope you don't die again any more times besides the one that you really need to at the end.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, we
Okay.
all have to die sometime, just not more than once.
Yes. Okay. To everybody who's tuned in, thank you for tuning in to the Dead Man Walking podcast. Thank you again, Romi. Check out her social medias. It's all under Romi Mayes, ROMIMAYES. And I wish you all a great week and see you next episode. Bye bye.
Thanks, everybody.